Damn, son, where'd you find this?
People don't be offended by the truth. They be offended because you called out the truth. Simple as that. They don't want to hear any other narrative that makes them look bad.
One thing I can't stand at this big grown age is somebody who act like cause and effect does not exist. Like, yes, your actions caused this outcome. Yes, what you did lit the match. Like, why are you surprised and playing victim?
Guys, Chico, they never lie.
That's how you know somebody doesn't respect you. They listen to reply, not to be understood. They cut you off. They minimize what actually matters to you. They laugh at your boundaries, and then they call you sensitive when you try to hold the line. They show up late. They cancel last minute, forget the things you've told them, because in their world, your time, your energy, even your voice aren't a priority. They're just an option. You see, there are two kinds of people. Those who adjust when they realize they've actually hurt you, and those who expect you to adjust so they don't have to change. You don't need to be disrespected loudly to be disrespected deeply. Sometimes you'll see it. It's just in their tone, in their patterns, in the silence after you're known. Respect isn't what they say when they're watching. It's how they act when they think you'll tolerate it.
By examining his own attitude towards the possibilities of peace, towards the Soviet Union, towards the course of the Cold War.
Art muscle. It was a way of making me feel that they were a part of me.
You see it on the bridge. Wait, how they get it? If the government had to change the screw in the bridge, they had to shut it down. They got state troopers out there. They got lanes closed. They got their strange machines. How did they get up there?
What's good, people? Peace and blessings. Glory, praise, and honor to the Most High. Without further ado, I would like to introduce to you Miss Sydney, linguist. Shout outs to the poets, to the writers, to the content creators. Shout outs to the people in the building. Thank you all for being here. I'm excited for this episode. Do me a solid. Make sure you give her a warm welcome. This is going to be a treat, man. This is a day where we get to learn some things, man. It ain't all about drama and gossip and stuff like that. So I'm going to kick back. I'm going to bring her up on the big screen, and we're going to get it done. Hold on a minute. Hold on a minute. Yo.
Hello. See. Okay, cool. I'm not on mute.
Hey,
forgetting that lately.
What's good?
Not much. Just been decluttering my house. I finally broke down this like leaning tower of bookshelf that we've had that is broken, so it like leans one way, and I finally broke that down and recycled it. So proud of myself. I actually did something today besides doing all the stuff with the kids. When you have multiples, it can definitely take a lot of your time. So you end up running out of time for everything else. So yeah, I had a pretty good day. I'm very excited for this topic. As you guys, am I still wearing my shirt? Oh, I am wearing my shirt. Warning, may spontaneously talk about tornadoes. This is one of my intellectual babies. I very much enjoy talking about weather and cool phenomenon that happen in the world. I find science incredibly interesting, and there's a lot you can learn about the earth, about ourselves, about the skies above us through science. So I'm excited to talk about this stuff. And I have some pretty interesting pictures and videos to use as well.
Gotcha. Well, I'm gonna get my seatbelt on, and I'm gonna turn this over to you. I'll be in the back. Whatever you need to send, I got you covered. Yeah, let's get it.
All right. So today I'm going to talk about atmospheric phenomenon, so things that happen in our skies. The atmosphere itself is, let me pull this up. I'm going to send you a picture. It's like the second image. It's the one that has all the different types of lightning. Yeah, I think it's this. I'll pull it up myself. Yeah, go ask Dad for water. There's water on the windowsill too.
I need more waffle.
Oh, I'll get you waffles after, okay? It's the second image with all of the different types of lightning. If you want to pull that up. So the atmosphere of our planet is broken up into 4 different, or technically 5 different sections. But for these phenomenon, they all take place in the first 4 sections of the atmosphere. The troposphere is where we live, where we breathe. That takes us up to 10 miles above the Earth. And then the stratosphere is where some of the more rare phenomenon happen. Those occur between 10 and 50 miles, or I guess this is in kilometers, into the atmosphere. And the mesosphere is I think it's the thickest section of the Earth, or the atmosphere. And that one starts at about 50 kilometers up and goes roughly 70 kilometers up, I think. And then the thermosphere is the highest part of the atmosphere that still has air in it. Very thin air, so humans would not be able to survive above the troposphere. It is much too cold. Stratosphere is where planes fly. Or I think planes actually fly at it's like right on the cusp of the troposphere and stratosphere. But as you know, it's freezing up there, so you would not be able to survive. Not to mention, there is not enough air for you. I think Mount Everest actually reaches into the stratosphere. Let's see. No. It almost reaches the stratosphere, 9 kilometers high, so it's 1 mile short of reaching the stratosphere. But that gives you an idea of what it's like at that boundary. Obviously, in Mount Everest, once you get to the top part of the mountain, you need oxygen, supplemental oxygen, unless you have trained yourself to withstand that condition. It's also bitterly cold. You will not survive in just regular clothing. But that can kind of give you a sneak peek at what the environment would feel like up in that part of the atmosphere. Not something that humans would want to spend their time in. But there's a lot of really cool phenomenon that happen throughout the atmosphere. I'll start with some of the most common ones that are that exist. The first one is one that we pretty much all know. So I'm not going to go super in depth into the non-lightning phenomenon. I will explain them a bit, but I'm going to put most of my effort into lightning because there's a lot to it and I find it very fascinating. Most of the other ones are more so due to light reflection or diffraction or distortion, basically. So the first one, rainbows. We all have seen, or at least I hope you've all seen rainbows, because rainbows are quite beautiful to see. Rainbows are caused by the light refracting, which means sunlight is going through the sunlight as one color is going through the droplets and of either ice or water in the atmosphere. And through that process, it breaks the white light, or I guess yellow light, into all of its colors. Light exists on the spectrum, and when it goes through water droplets, it breaks up. And so then you see the full spectrum of color. Rainbows technically actually are circles, but because of the horizon, it cuts it off. So to us, it looks like an arc. But sometimes if you go up into the sky, you can actually see more of the circular shape. But yeah, rainbows are basically the light getting broken up in the water droplets that are in the sky, which is why you most typically are not going to see it unless it's raining or has just rained, because then there's going to be water in the atmosphere. There's another one, which are called sundogs, or halos, and they're basically light that is bent by ice crystals rather than water droplets. And it could be the sun or moonlight, but it creates bright rings or like bright spots in the sky. They aren't rainbow colored, they're just white. But they're very common in very cold regions where you have lingering ice in the atmosphere. It can look very much like a halo around the sun or moon, whichever one is creating it. Sometimes it can appear like a very thin rainbow with another like little rainbow on top. And then sometimes it can actually be a complete circle. Depends on your orientation. But as I said, it's most common in very cold regions. I'm not going to show pictures of all of these things just because we would not have enough time for looking at pictures of all of them. But I highly suggest looking up pictures if you've never seen them before or if you don't know what they are, because it is pretty cool to see. I've never actually seen one in person, but they're still really cool to see in pictures. The next one is crepuscular rays. I'm more than certain we've all seen this at one point in time. It's basically when there's cloud gaps and the sunlight is streaming through in very visible beams. Very much associated with heaven, and it's always going to be seen on a cloudy day because you have to have clouds breaking up the sunlight into these rays for you to be able to see them. Very cool to see as well, especially when they're very distinct. Mirages. Most of us might not have seen them, but we are probably familiar with them. Mirages is when the light interacts with the heat coming up from the ground. It can also be seen in other circumstances, but it's most commonly seen in hot areas because the air is bending due to the temperature making the air move. It can also be because of different temperature layers, but it basically causes distorted images. Sometimes it can make things look like they're appearing. This is why it's very common in the desert, because obviously there's a huge temperature difference between the atmosphere and the ground, which in deserts, part of the reason why they get so hot is there is no, or is not as much vegetative cover to break up the sun's rays, and so the ground is absorbing all of that heat, and so that's why they're super common in the desert, just because of that intense heat coming up off the ground. Sometimes you can actually see that waviness coming up off the ground, Especially if the ground is kind of wet, then you'll kind of see the evaporation. Really common in cities, like if you're driving and the street's really hot, you can actually see that that heat distortion. But yeah, mirages is light coming through those distortions and causing an image of some sort, or a distortion of the things that are on the ground. Sometimes they can appear as like human figures, sometimes as like tree-like figures, sometimes like black smudges in the background. You can also get them on the ocean, but yeah, most commonly it's mostly associated with the desert. There's also something called cloud iridescence, where diffraction, again, just like the rainbows, light is coming through the clouds and it breaks it up into rainbow-like colors, but instead of it being in the atmosphere as a ring, it's reflecting through the clouds, so that you'll just have like streaks of rainbow appearing on the clouds. Those are common again on like cloudy days, and usually it has to be when there's more moisture in the atmosphere to allow that diffraction to happen. Another type of phenomenon, which is not related to sunlight, but it's particularly notable right now because we're actually going through a G4 solar event, which means we're getting a lot of radiation from the sun hitting the planet. And these are auroras. You can see them. It's called the northern or the southern lights, depending on which hemisphere you're in. They're very commonly seen in the Arctic regions. They can also be seen in upper northern Europe, Canada, as well as eastern Australia. The part of Australia that's closest to Antarctica, you can see them in Antarctica as well. When there's really strong storms, it allows those lights to actually be seen deeper into the closer to the equator, basically. So right now, because we have a G4, which is the rating for how severe it is, how much radiation we're getting, we can see it in the upper Midwest right now. So places like Chicago, Oregon, North Dakota, a little bit into like New York and New England, you might be able to actually see some northern lights. Depending on how strong the energy is going to, and also the gases in the air is going to determine the color that you see. But most commonly, you're going to see, if you're in areas that commonly get them, you'll see blues and greens. If you're farther away, you'll see reds. If you're farther away from the poles, and then if very rarely, you can also see white. Not super common, but it can be seen in white. There's another one which I find extremely cool. Actually, just somebody that I follow on social media just got a picture of this phenomenon recently. I think they're in the Monterey area of California, but it's called a green flash. During sunrise or sunset, because of the atmospheric refraction, the moment the sun peaks above the horizon or drops below the horizon, you can rarely see what's called the green flash, where the sun will suddenly turn green for a moment as it's dipping below or peaking above the horizon. I have never seen it, but ever since I heard about it, probably in like high school, college, I've always wanted to see one. So every time there's a sunrise, I'm always like staring at the sun to see if I can catch a glimpse of the green flash. And for a while, I thought it was a myth. I was like, no, that doesn't happen. But I've seen pictures of it. and it's pretty cool. It definitely is green. But yeah. There's another thing which is similar to the iridescent rainbow coloring in the clouds, the cloud iridescence. These are called glories, which are often seen in fog when the light is like coming through the fog. They're basically like rings of rainbow, like faint rainbow, that can either be seen around a shadow of a person, a shadow of a plane, something that is in the sky. Again, it's caused by the diffraction of light, and it's, as I said, it's very common, or it is commonly seen through fog. If you're going to see it, that's where you're going to see it. You can sometimes see it through clouds, particularly cirrus clouds, which are very thin and wispy. They're the ones that are like, I don't know, they look like pulled cotton maybe. But it does have to be very diffuse water droplets. That's why it's common in fog if you're going to see it. It's definitely not one of the more common phenomenon to see, though. There's very specific conditions required for that. There's another one called the Brocken specter. It's similar to the glory that I just described, except it includes a shadow as well. So it's like a silhouette with those colorful rings around it. So the ring around it is still called the glory, but the shadow is the Brocken specter, and it's basically a magnified shadow of somebody that's between the sunlight and the cloud or fog bank, and so they appear bigger. And there's a theory that this explains visions of like angels and ghosts and stuff like that, because it does very much look like it. It's not super common, but it is pretty cool / creepy to see if you do ever catch a glimpse of it. But yeah, it basically just looks like a big shadow of a person like cast onto the clouds. Pretty cool though. I've never seen it, but I'm also not in areas where it gets very misty. We used to get fogs when I was younger, but as I got older, we stopped getting fogs as much because the temperature got hotter where we lived. And let's see, the last one, did I close out of that? The last non-lightning light phenomenon are called light pillars. This is very, very commonly seen in cold regions because it's formed from ice crystals, and it's basically vertical beams of light that are above a light source. So this could be a street lamp, it could be like a house. The brighter the light, the more easily you can see it. If you live in places like Canada, Norway, where it gets really, really bitterly cold, you can see it. It's pretty cool if you see it over cities because it literally just looks like if you ever see like old style spotlights, I don't know if they really do that anymore, but like the ones that just go straight up in the sky, usually like advertisers use them now, but it looks like hundreds of those of different colors just shooting up from the city. You can see them in multiple colors. You can see them in white. It's very common in white, but you can also see it, as I said, particularly in cities, in multicolor, orange, blue, green. It's pretty cool. This is another one I'd suggest looking up pictures of, because it's really neat. And you do have to be in a very specific region to see it. If you don't have ice crystals in your atmosphere, you're not going to be able to see it. So all of us in the desert regions are out of luck, unless we have rare cold days. And then there's also air glow, which is basically just the light emitted by our atmosphere, that you basically have to see from space. You can kind of see it in very dark, really dark regions, but usually you have to be in space to see it. It basically just looks like a very faint kind of diffuse rainbow that is covering the whole sky. But again, you'd have to be in really, really dark conditions to be able to see that. Most people in cities aren't going to be able to see that coloration over the background light that cities are emitting. So now we get to talk about lightning. First of all, lightning is formed when static electricity builds up in storm clouds. When ice and water particles run into each other, they basically, kind of like if you like rub your hands on wool and then touch the door handle, you'll get a little spark or snap feeling. You could also get it from like touching a cat, or laundry. When you pull your laundry out of the dryer, the clothes rubbing together in the dryer caused static electricity to build up, which is why sometimes if you have something that has like long strands on it, or like even if you pull the clothes apart, it'll like make the snapping noises. That is all static electricity. And it's very, very, very micro versions of lightning. It's pretty cool sometimes if you build up static electricity on yourself and then you have all the lights off and you touch a doorknob, you can actually see a tiny little like bolt of lightning coming from your finger onto the door handle. It's pretty neat. I think you do have to have specific types of doorknobs, like not all of them will do that. But it is possible to experiment at home and make that yourself. The electricity comes in two different charges. There's negative charge and positive charge. I personally don't actually know exactly the difference. Let me look that up. I know that for lightning, the positive charge makes the lightning much, much more powerful. Let's see. Positive charge is carried by protons and is negative by electrons. Positive charge, negative, yeah, I know that. Let's see. Lightning. Okay, that didn't help me. Okay, so I'm just gonna go with there's two different charges. There's positive and negative. As I said, with lightning, positive charged lightning is way, way stronger. I'll have to investigate. Maybe I'll do one on electricity itself too, so we can both learn. See, I don't know everything. But anyway, there are a lot of different types of lightning. We all think of the characteristic like bolt of lightning. But yeah, there are different types. The phenomenon paired with lightning is thunder, obviously. Thunder is basically caused because the lightning rapidly heats the air up, and it actually can get so hot that it surpasses the surface, the temperature of the surface of the sun, the heat that a lightning strike can generate can reach 54,000 degrees Fahrenheit. So again, much hotter than the sun, which is crazy to think about that we have that occurring on this planet. Fun fact, on Jupiter, they have lightning that is like, I think it's like 64 times more powerful or something like that. Let me see. I remember they were talking about it 10 times more powerful. But their lightning is much, much bigger. So it's pretty cool. Lightning does not appear the same on different planets. It will be different on different planets based on the atmosphere and the physics of that planet. So Earth lightning is unique to Earth. But we have a lot of different types. The main, I'm going to split it up into two different sections because there's the type of lightning by location and then the type of lightning by appearance. The type of lightning by location, there's 10 different kinds. Did I count correctly? 9. So there's intra-cloud lightning, which is seen as sheet lightning, where basically the whole cloud lights up, but you don't actually see any distinct bolts. Very, very common in my area. I rarely have gotten to see true bolt lightning, but it basically occurs between oppositely charged areas within the same cloud. So you're just going to have lightning within the cloud going from one location to another because there's a positively charged area and a negatively charged area. And that's why you typically don't see a bolt because it's going to be hidden by the mist within the cloud. There's also cloud to cloud lightning where similar to intra-cloud, it usually appears as sheet lightning. You can see bolt lightning from cloud to cloud, but it's just like the name suggests, it's going from one different cloud to a separate cloud. And then there's cloud to air, where the lightning occurs from the cloud and discharges out into the air. Doesn't hit another cloud, doesn't hit the ground. It just releases its charge out into the air. There's cloud to ground lightning, which connects from the cloud to the ground. Most common, this is what everyone thinks of when they think of lightning for the most part. And they are the biggest threats to life because these, if they make a connection to a living thing or an object, they're going to do tremendous damage. I will get to that a little bit later in the stream. As I said earlier, this lightning can be positive or negative. The positive, which is the most dangerous. I think because it's hotter, but again, I'm going to look into this so I can give you a proper answer. There's also volcanic lightning, which occurs within a volcanic emission cloud. When a volcano erupts, not only is there a lot of heat, it's very dry, and so there's a lot of static electricity. Also, the particulate matter is much bigger. You're literally having like dust and rocks up in the atmosphere. And so you can get some pretty intense, pretty cool lightning. Sometimes it's different colors depending on the output of the volcano. Fun fact, every volcano has a unique fingerprint where they don't all have the same the rocks, the composition inside the volcano is going to be different per volcano. Like you can actually tell which volcano erupted based on what is released from that volcano, because you can compare it to like this one has more sulfur in it, this one has more basalt in it, this one has like insert rock type. So you can actually tell often which volcano actually erupted just based on what it released. But that's going to cause different types of lightning. Sometimes it can be green, sometimes it can be red, sometimes it's just typical looking lightning. But it'll all occur within that cloud released from the volcano. So it's pretty cool. Again, I've never seen it. I've never seen a volcano erupting before. But I have seen the other, I've seen cloud to ground. I've seen cloud to air or cloud to cloud. So yeah, not very often though. There's also another, these next four are exceedingly rare. Most people have not seen these. A couple of them were only recently discovered within my lifetime. And then the last one has been largely unproven, unstudied, unexplained. The first is sprites, which was in that picture that I showed earlier. They're basically like reddish flashes that come above the thunderstorms, which they believe it's caused by the basically release of the oppositely charged particles up into the atmosphere after the lightning discharges into the ground of the cloud. It often looks like a jellyfish or a carrot top. It's going to be like red and orange. But they, like, you'd have to be kind of far away from the storm to be able to see the cloud tops, to be able to see them. They're super cool. I still, to this day, remember the documentary that I watched that talked about these when I didn't know they existed, and I thought that was the coolest thing ever. That was the documentary that really spurred my interest in lightning altogether, because I was like, what? I had no idea that these existed. There's another similar one which also shoots above the clouds. Again, you would exceedingly rare. You'd have to be very lucky to see these. They're called blue jets, and they basically are like cones of blue light that shoot up above the clouds. Again, they believe that their discharges upwards as the lightning is striking down below. They're still fairly new to science, so I don't know if they know exactly what causes them. Let's see. Sprite lightnings are caused by intense positive cloud to ground lightning strikes that create a massive electric field which breaks down the air in the mesosphere, which excites the nitrogen molecules that makes it glow red and orange. So basically it's the electrical charge upsetting the nitrogen molecules in the air. That's for the sprite. And then the blue jet is also from the nitrogen. Interesting. It's kind of the opposite direction, where it's slowing down the nitrogen in the atmosphere. Also caused by electrical discharges from the top of strong storms. A positive charge meets a negative layer, launching blue glowing plasma of excited nitrogen into the stratosphere, which calms it down and makes it appear as blue flashes. Interesting. Learn something new. Then there's another phenomenon, which are also fairly new, called elves. Elf lightning are very diffuse flashes of reddish light that occur in the upper atmosphere, the ionosphere, above intense lightning strikes. It's caused by the electromagnetic pulse exciting nitrogen molecules, so very similar to the sprites, just a different appearance. Oftentimes, sprites and elves occur together, so you'll see the red glow, and then the sprites like coming down from it. Actually, no, I don't want an ad. No, thank you. There's some pretty cool videos that people have gotten of elves occurring. So again, I highly suggest looking up these phenomenon if you've never seen them or have not heard of them before, because they're quite cool to see. Lastly, which is my particular favorite, which I find incredibly fascinating, especially because they really don't know anything about them. I have a video that I can show you of this. If you want to play that. It's called ball lightning, and it is very rare, very, very rare. There's only a few instances of this being caught on camera, and until recently, most scientists just believed that it was like people making it up or hallucinating, not know what they were seeing. There's a lot of different accounts of ball lightning that do differ, where sometimes it passes harmlessly between things, like passes through walls, passes even like through a person. And sometimes there are stories of ball lightning like exploding and causing fires. They still, again, don't know exactly what it is. They can be like really tiny little things to like meters wide, like huge. They are most commonly reported as going slow, but sometimes they've been reported as like moving really quickly. They suggested that they're plasma balls, silicon vapor, interactions with microwaves. But again, they usually last only seconds. So you have to be very, very lucky to even see them. And it's also incredibly hard to catch them, or like to study them when they only last that long. Occasionally, people have also reported that they make a hissing sound or have a distinct odor. So yeah, I wish I had more to say about it, because we obviously do not have that much data on it. But I can confirm it is a real phenomenon. They have got it on video. Scientists do confirm that it is a real thing. And it's also pretty cool because they do have images of it from history, where you have people's paintings and drawings of it because they were so astonished of what they saw but couldn't explain it. That being said, treat it like normal lightning. If you do get lucky enough to see it, don't try and touch it. You definitely don't want to experience getting shocked by one of these things if it is actually electrical in nature, because we don't know what it is. We don't know how it'll affect a human body. So yeah, don't try and touch them. But again, you'd have to be very, very lucky to be able to see one. And let's see. So by appearance, there are also different types of lightning. These are all going to be either cloud to cloud lightning, cloud to air lightning, or cloud to ground lightning. This only also technically applies to volcanic lightning, but these only apply to like typical lightning, not to the sprites, jets, all those. So heat lightning is the type of lightning that you can hear the thunder. I mean, you can't hear the thunder because it's too far away from you, but you can still see the flash. This was most commonly the lightning that I got to see when I was a kid. I was always disappointed by our storms because we didn't really get bolt lightning ever. I think The first time I saw actual bolt lightning was like 2017. So, and that was in Monterey and not by my house, I think. But yeah, lightning is exceedingly rare where I live. But yeah, heat lightning is the storm's far away. You can't hear it because sound doesn't travel as far as light, but you can still see the clouds lighting up. Fork lightning is basically what everyone considers lightning. When kids draw lightning, this is what they draw. It's one bolt of lightning that hits the ground. Usually, bolt lightning is not just going to be one particular bolt, because what happens is you have the charged particles seeking for something to make contact with. And so they're called leaders, and you'll get a bunch of little ones that are coming down to the ground. But the bolts that you see is the one that actually makes contact first. And the pulsating of that of the lightning is it basically draining its energy into the site of impact. You can, because lightning happens so quick, fork lightning, the bolt of lightning, you usually see just the brightest one. You can sometimes see the leaders coming down with it, but usually when you see the flash of lightning, that's after it's already hit the ground. Spider lightning is also called an anvil crawler. It's lightning that branches out in multiple directions across the clouds. Super common in the Central Plains and in Florida. And that one, you'll see it kind of like stemming out from a central point. So sometimes it'll be like one direction, like a branching tree, and sometimes it'll like actually come out kind of like a wheel. And those crawl across the clouds. They're very common in like large thunderstorms, where fork lightning you can see in even more mild, moderate thunderstorms. Then there's bolts from the blue. Those are when the positive leader goes really, really far. It'll travel miles in the air through the cloud before it eventually makes contact with the ground. And these are responsible for the clear, sunny day lightning strikes where people just like randomly get struck by lightning out of nowhere. It's because there's a storm that was really far away that they couldn't see over the horizon, but the lightning traveled through the air and it still ended up making contact with the ground. I think, just from my own understanding, I think it's really common in like empty plains, desert type areas, because the lightning isn't going to have anything to make contact with. Because I'm sure we all know the Nomer, or the, I don't know what to call it, but the common thing said, like, lightning is going to find the fastest way to the ground. So if you have a lot of trees, it's going to try and get to the tree. But if you have empty plain or empty desert, you have a higher possibility of that bolt from the blue because there's nothing for it to strike for a while. So why is lightning dangerous? I'm sure we can all guess why lightning is dangerous, just from the fact that it's electricity. And we all know that electricity does not do well when it hits the human body. We are electrical beings. Animals are electrical beings. We need electricity to run our nervous system, our brain. And so if you get hit with a huge dose of electricity, it's going to short circuit your brain and your heart. Your heart is on a particular electrical rhythm, and that's why a specific shock can cause your heart to go into dysrhythm, and it can kill you. That's the biggest, or not the biggest risk, but that is the main associated risk. But there are also other things that can happen. As I said, lightning can be like 540,000 or 54,000. I think it was 54,000 degrees. It gets incredibly hot. Yeah, 50,000 degrees. If you've ever stuck your hand into a pot of water that was even 100 degrees, you could already tell that it was wildly uncomfortable. Like, we do not tolerate high temperatures very well. So imagine getting hit by 50,000 degrees of temperature, hot temperature. That would not be pleasant. That would be enough to burn the surface of your skin, burn your internal organs. Just to give you an idea of how hot it is, this is called a fulgurite. It's basically when lightning strikes the sand, it can immediately solidify the sand and turn it into, like, melt it together into a single rock. So you can actually see the path that lightning took. But if it strikes your body, that's not going to be good. And it, because of the way that it affects your brain, it can also cause neurological problems. It can lead to confusion, headaches, memory loss, a lot of long-term issues. I've heard of people losing sensation in their various body parts. I've heard there's a really cool, let me pull up a picture of it. You can actually get, I think they're called Lichtenberg scars. Yeah, Lichtenberg scars. They are temporary. Dang it. Hold on. I don't know if you can see that very well, but they're like, it leaves the lightning burns on the outside of your skin. It can happen when your skin is wet, but it leaves like an actual lightning type burn of where the electricity was like running across your skin. Here's another pretty cool one. So it can, as I said, like, it can burn your soft tissues. You can also, just from the force, like the heat explosion, because sometimes when it hits the ground, the heat itself will cause the air to expand, and so it can actually like throw you. You can also have, like, even if you don't get directly struck by lightning, you can get indirectly struck by the lightning, where it travels through the ground, travels through it could even travel through pipes or wiring in your house and transfer to you. That's why they have historically said, like, don't take a shower during a thunderstorm, because it can actually travel through your housing system and electrocute you in your room, in your house. Additional risks is if the lightning strikes a tree, or if a lightning strikes a building, it can set the building on fire. It can damage your appliances, your electronics. That's why they also say, like, if it's a really severe lightning storm, like, don't charge things, unplug them from the wall, because if it strikes the house, it can short out things in your house, or like cause an energy surge that like kills your electronics. With trees, this one's pretty interesting. You don't want to stand under a tree during a storm. We all know that. Not only because, I mean, it can drop branches on you, it could fall over, the lightning could strike the tree and pass on to you. But something people don't consider is when lightning strikes trees, particularly ones that have a lot of sap in them, they explode. Because the sap superheats and expands, it basically causes the tree to burst outwards. The bark will fly off, the tree can split. That's why sometimes when you see lightning struck trees, they'll be like split in half. Because it basically like superheats the tree for a second and literally it explodes. Also, there's videos of that online. Super cool to watch. Super not cool to be next to it when it happens. So I would highly suggest just looking at these things from afar. If there's a thunderstorm, don't try and witness it yourself. Be inside, away from, even be away from windows. I don't know if it's necessarily as much of an issue now with insulation and all that stuff in windows. Like windows aren't the same material anymore. But you still want to be very careful because sometimes they can come through windows. Again, you can't really predict where lightning is going to go, but you should still be cautious, cautiously aware. Lightning is one of those things that you, just like water flooding, you want to give it its space, give it its respect. Observe it from afar, but don't tempt yourself, or don't tempt nature. You also want to be very careful near water. Don't go swimming. It can spread through the water and hit you. Don't be in a boat. It can, especially metal boats, it can travel not only through the boat itself, but it can also, because you are a tall thing in a flat area, it's like, oh, easy way down. So stay away from water during thunderstorms, and don't do things like golfing and, as I said, fishing, because the fishing rod is going to be a honing beacon to that lightning. Don't do things that basically involve metal or tall objects to protect yourself. If you hear thunder, you are close enough to be struck by lightning, so you should go inside, stay inside, and protect yourself. If you are outdoors, like let's say you're going hiking, let's say you are at the park, and you don't have the opportunity to go inside, get to a low point. Stay away, stay off of hills, stay off of mountains. If you are on a mountain for some reason, like go hike downhill as soon as you possibly can. Stay away from trees, poles, things that are standing by themselves. Do not be in an open field. And again, don't be near water. Also, I don't know if anyone has these anymore, but if you have a corded phone, don't be on the phone because it can actually travel and hit you through, as I said, through the wiring. You will be safe within your car because not only does the rubber ground the car, but it's also going to allow the current to pass around you rather than like through you. So being in a car, being in a building is much safer than being outside. But if you cannot be inside for some reason, at least don't be in an open area. Find somewhere, something, be away from all the tall things, basically. One of the ways that you can tell that you're about to be struck by lightning, which can give you a couple of seconds to get out of harm's way, is if your hair is standing on end. A lot of people think it's amusing and they stand there laughing at each other like, oh my God, your hair's standing up. But if you see that, go somewhere, get away from wherever you are, because that is the sign that the charged particles are pulling your hair up because there's something above you that's looking for a way down. if you are in a situation where you believe you're about to get struck by lightning, you don't have anywhere to go, like let's say you're in the middle of the desert and you're miles away from anything tall, and like you are the tallest thing around, there's a couple things that you can do to protect yourself in a way that can potentially limit the harm to your body. The first thing to do, you can find a ditch. But if you are like about to be struck, get into a ball, curl up into a tight ball, and like plant your feet into the ground. Tuck your head and cover your ears. When you cover your ears, you're protecting the sound damage. You want to like tuck your head because then it like shortens the path that it takes for that lightning to go through your body. If you're standing up, it's going to go through your entire system, but if you are curled up into a ball, it spends less time in your body. If you're holding anything metal, let it go, because even touching the metal, you can get burns just from touching it. But basically, like you want to make yourself as small as possible. That way it doesn't spend very much time in your body. And you want to do the balls of your feet. That way it can travel into the ground and doesn't just like linger in your body. And then if you're in a group of people, spread out. That way all of you aren't getting struck by the same thing of lightning. Like it limits how many people end up getting hurt from this. If you see somebody get struck by lightning, particularly if they go unconscious, immediately check them for their heartbeat and do CPR, because often that's one of the things that kills the person is their heart stops, or is in arrhythmia where it's not beating functionally. So make sure that and then also call 911. If somebody does get struck by lightning in front of you, CPR, call 911. If you can, pull them inside. That way they don't get struck by lightning again. That would really suck. But yeah, and 30 minutes after the last thunder sound is typically the kind of rule of when it's kind of safe, because as I said, storms can still shoot lightning out beyond the storm's area. So you just want to make sure that you wait until that storm has truly passed before you go back outside or do activities that put you at risk for lightning. So yeah, hopefully this never happens to you. It is incredibly rare. I think only, let's see, I think, okay, take that back. It's not incredibly rare. It is 240,000 people globally are injured by lightning every year. I think it's less common in the US. It's a lot more common with people who are outdoors. But yeah, 240,000 people are injured. 24,000 fatalities. In the US, only around 20 to 30 people are killed annually out of the hundreds of people that are struck. So it's not as common in America, but it is common around the world, relatively. 90 do have, if you do get hit, do know that 90% of lightning strike victims do survive. Interestingly, probably because of the height, probably body composition. If you're male, you're about 4 times more likely to get struck by lightning than females. And as I said, outdoor activities are very, very commonly the ones that are affected by this. But if you go outdoors at all, if you're in areas where there's a lot of thunderstorms, keep this in mind, keep the safety tips in mind, because again, lightning is incredibly powerful and you definitely do not want to be stuck in a situation like that. Yeah, so I hope you guys found this as interesting as I did. I highly, highly suggest looking up these phenomenon if you haven't heard of them before, because these are, I can describe them as best as I can, but I promise you the imagery, the videos are so much cooler than my words. Yeah, and I hope you learned a lot from this, and I don't hope you get struck by lightning, but I hope if you ever need the information, it does help you. That is one of my goals, is I want people to be safer, smarter, and more advised about the world around them. So yeah, I very much enjoyed talking about this. I will do another episode sometime on electricity, because there's so much more to say about that, and I want to learn a little bit more. But yeah, be safe out there. Don't go in any storms. And again, if you think that you're getting struck by lightning, stop marveling about the hair standing up and get into a ball and protect yourself.
By examining his own attitude towards the possibilities of peace, towards the Soviet Union, towards the course of the Cold War.
Our muscle. It was a way of making me feel that they were a part of me.
You see it on the bridge. Wait, I didn't get it. If the government had to change the screw in the bridge, they had to shut it down. They got state troopers out there. They got lanes closed. They got their strange machines. How did they get up there?